And we've heard a lot about the symptoms of long COVID or long haulers, people who suffer from symptoms after recovering. But how common is this? Our next guest says that we can expect a tsunami of disability as a result of long COVID and is predicting millions will continue to suffer. We are joined by Dr. Ashok Gupta. He's an expert on the treatment of chronic illness using something called neuroplasticity principles, and he's been researching long COVID from the beginning. Good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. This is something that as time has gone on, we have learned more about it. But what do we know about how many people are actually suffering from long haul syndrome? Is this occurring to a lot of people?
Yes, and as you said, it's a tsunami of cases. And we really refer to this as the next pandemic, the hidden pandemic. And in the US alone, it is estimated that at least 1 million people are probably suffering from long COVID, which could be defined as having symptoms for at least 8 to 12 weeks. And certainly at our clinic, we are seeing people who've had it for 9 months or a year or indeed even 15 months, who'd contracted COVID in the first wave in March of 2020.
Wow.
So it is estimated about 5 to 10% of people who contract COVID go on to having long-term symptoms. So this is a public health crisis, really.
Okay, so let's talk about the treatment. You've been studying this for a while. You specialize in something called neuroplasticity treatments. What exactly is that, and how does this help?
Well, there's a number of different hypotheses as to what might be causing long COVID. And here at our clinic, we have 20 years of experience of treating ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia, which are conditions which seem to show quite a lot of parallels with long haul COVID. And we found a lot of long haul COVID patients coming to our clinic, and we were beginning to see some positive results. And obviously these are anecdotal results at this stage. And essentially we believe that when someone goes through COVID-19 infection, because it's such a serious infection, the brain goes into what we call an overdrive mode. That even once the COVID-19 infection has gone, the virus is no longer in the body as an active state, the brain begins to overstimulate the immune system and the nervous system and continues to create symptoms in the body. Because as we're often aware now with flu and COVID-19, most of the symptoms are caused by our own immune system reacting. So once that is understood, we believe the issue is in the unconscious brain. Specifically the amygdala and insular parts of the brain. Mm-hmm. And we have some novel brain retraining, brain rehabilitation techniques for a patient to be able to train their brains to no longer respond in this way. So this is a very kind of new and cutting edge type of treatment.
Interesting. Give me an example of how brain retraining works and what are some of the specific things you do with these patients?
Yes, so obviously we can't directly control our immune system or indeed our nervous system. But there are indirect ways we can. So we teach a patient to recognize the unconscious danger signals that indicate that we are in a state of danger. So if we imagine, when you've got flu or when you've got some kind of illness, there are certain signals that you receive which tell you that you are in a bad state and you must rest, as an example. And once a patient is taught how to recognize that, they're able to then send what we call safety signals to the unconscious brain. And this isn't something that happens overnight. This requires repetition again and again and again. And once the brain begins to understand these messages, then we notice people coming back to good health.
Okay.
And some of the supporting techniques that we use are things like meditation and breathing techniques. And although people might see that as psychological techniques, actually meditation has been shown to switch off 30 inflammatory genes in our body. So all of these supporting techniques and the main techniques, we believe they directly impact on how the brain and how the body is responding to the historical legacy of the virus.
Wow.
And we already have a randomized controlled trial, which we published on fibromyalgia, which showed very positive and promising results in treating fibromyalgia.
Okay, let's talk about this REACT study, if you can talk about that a little bit. Imperial College of London did this REACT study on long COVID. Tell us what they got from that. What have we learned from that that's going to help people?
Well, I think the main aspects of that study, where obviously they had a lot of people in the UK who self-tested, and essentially what they found was that, with these particular transmission of these particular things, 1 in 20, or about 6%, had COVID-19 symptoms lasting 12 weeks or more. So that was around a 6%, and other studies have shown, anywhere between 5 to 10%. And they estimate that between, around 2 million people may have the condition in the UK alone. And earlier I'd said 1 million in the US. Actually, is estimating the US between 3 to 4 million people in the US
Wow.
May be suffering from long COVID. So these are real kind of serious conditions. And this was a study that was based on about 127,000 people. So this wasn't a small study. And it is currently, obviously one of the main studies that we have and some of the main findings that we have as well.
Well, I'm curious, what do you want to say to people who maybe are sitting at home and they think that, they're frustrated because they think that they're going through long COVID right now. They're not quite sure what to do about it, how to treat it. Maybe some of them think, I just have to deal with it. What do you want those people to know?
I think the most important thing that we see at our clinic is to not overdo it. Yeah. So it can be very tempting when we have an illness to think, right, well, I just need to exercise my way out of it, or I just need to push back and just get back into normal life and I'll be fine. But that actually makes things worse. What's really important is someone that that a patient deeply rests. And that doesn't mean only resting at a physical level, but also at a mental and emotional level. Because from the field of psychoneuroimmunology, we know that when people are stressed, emotionally stressed, mentally stressed, physically stressed, that can directly impact on our immune system. So I would encourage deep rest, healthy living, and not rushing to exercise or get back to work. And only get back to work once you feel fully rested.
Wow.
So it's time really for that to kind of go inwards and enjoy the time off and really heal oneself.
Wow, that's a hard thing to do. What's the website that people can go to learn more about you and your techniques? And if they have some questions for you, where should they go?
Yes, they can come to our website, which is guptaprogram.com, Gupta program.com, and there they can sign up for free videos, find out more information, and see if this kind of approach is for them. Yeah. And at the moment, we're currently conducting a randomized controlled trial on long COVID patients using our treatment, and that's a really interesting trial, and we hope to have those results within a couple of months, and that will obviously then add scientific validation to the approach that we're taking.
And I would love for you to come back to tell us about those results, because I think this is something we're going to be talking about for a while, and something we should be talking about because so many people have been impacted. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Thanks again, and keep up all the good work with the research.
Thank you so much.